Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks so much for the welcome and excited to be here to present ThoughtSpot. So a little bit of background about me. I've been in the BI area for over 20 years, including a stint at Amazon, actually on the retail side, doing analytics for the leadership there. And, you know, I joined ThoughtSpot about a year ago after a 5-year stint at Snowflake. So I've been doing cloud data for quite a while now. And currently in my role, I'm a senior product manager, and I own our connectivity to cloud data platforms. I will be presenting, so I won't be able to answer all your questions as we go through, but I will have some time toward the end where we'll look at questions and go through a Q&A. But really excited here to share with you our vision of search and AI-driven analytics. So you think about how long you wait for answers. And going back to my experience at Amazon, I was one of 2 BI people who served 2 vice presidents and about 12 product managers and a bunch of people under them, developers and all kinds of groups. And so I was in that 1.5 million number of data experts, and I was serving well over 10 people at the end of the day. And that time on 4.8 days to build a report is assuming that you have the data that you need for that report. And I think the thing, even at an organization like Amazon, that shocked me was how many of the questions of the executives we were not able to answer. You know, we had a very complex data pipeline that captured all of the data from the website. We had all of the, you know, the sales data captured, and, you know, really trying to get a handle on that data required a data expert, much more so even at Amazon than at other places. And so I felt the crunch of being that data expert with the weight of all these people on my shoulders. And, you know, at the end of the day, ThoughtSpot is here to solve that problem. So a little bit about the company as itself. Our founders came from Google and from Nutanix. Our founder that came from Nutanix had a lot of experience outside in the data space. He'd been at Astrodata and other places. And really their goal was to create a simple, smart solution at the time. And we've since added to that mandate cloud. And we'll explain why cloud is so important to that. And really the idea was to create a Google-like search on top of your corporate data, your internal data, and maybe even bringing other data, and to not only have that search to basically allow business users to ask questions the same way you would ask, you know, where is the nearest restaurant of Google or of any of those assistants. You can ask which stores are selling the most. And you can even get AI-driven insights around that data to find correlations, trends, anomalies, things like that. And so as we've gone through, as it says on the bottom, we've raised quite a bit in funding with some fantastic partners and investors, and we've gotten some great recognition. So Snowflake, we're Technology Partner of the Year last year. We have some Gartner love that we've had over the years. And really, our goal is to make the world a more fact-driven place. And that's really what we do. And so as we talk about what makes ThoughtSpot different, so how do we do that from a technical perspective? So first and foremost, it's around a search experience that's easy for everyone. And part of that, as Google does, is our search engine learns from user behavior. So where Google indexes the internet and then applies user behavior information along with that, we index the data in your data store, and we learn from how users are using that data. What are the most popular data sets? And we bring those up first. And the real idea is getting fast insight as you have ad hoc questions. So if you think about a dashboard, and I'll tell another story. So I was working for a very large multinational nonprofit, and I worked on a dashboard project. I was brought in, the dashboard project was already 6 months in and running late. And the first call that I was brought into on this project was, we're going to have another 6 months before anything is available. And they hung up on us. the internal customer who was asking for this dashboard to be built hung up on us because they did not like that answer. And so we quickly regrouped and we built them a dashboard. And interestingly enough, we were able to do that in 3 months, not using ThoughtSpot. I wish we had ThoughtSpot. We would have had them answers in a day or two. But we built them a dashboard, and in the reveal of that dashboard, the director of the group immediately identified 4 or 5 changes that he wanted to make to that dashboard. And so we were 9 months into the project. The users had never seen anything that was real, and they immediately had changes, different answers that they wanted. And that's the idea of ThoughtSpot, is to give you this answer, these type of answers immediately on complex business. We handle complex schemas, fact-to-fact joins. We can handle multi-pass SQL for complex, to take the complexity out of the hands of users. So at the end of, you'll see a demo here shortly, and I'll show you how easy it is for the end user. We build joins on the fly and we run these. You don't have to predefine hierarchies or any of the things that you do in a lot of the other tools in the analytics space. So, we've talked a lot about what makes ThoughtSpot different. Well, the data management market is evolving. When I first started, we had a lot of traditional enterprise data warehouses, and space was a premium. So we would transform the data before we loaded it into the data warehouse, because adding space to the data warehouse was incredibly expensive. And we would spend weeks just deciding on what schema we should implement, because it was so critical to getting it right up front. And then data lakes were starting to come along then in the mid 2000s. We were starting to really see them get more and more adoption in around 2012 was when this was happening. And that's when ThoughtSpot was started. And we really saw the shift from having just a small set of key data to having all your data and modern cloud data warehouses. So I joined Snowflake in 2014 and was really at the heart of this. Redshift was actually the first one, and I worked with it while I was at Amazon. And it really changed the way people thought about this, because suddenly scalability was a totally different equation. And Snowflake played on that. Now you see great solutions. In fact, later today, you're going to hear from Starburst, who's doing some amazing things in that area. Google as well has done great things. And so we wanted to leverage that. We wanted to understand that. And so, when we think about how to get insight from your data, we wanted to make it super easy. As easy as 1, 2, 3. So connect to your CDW. We have a picture of Snowflake here. We also support Amazon Redshift, Google BigQuery, Azure Synapse, and coming soon, Starburst. Then you quickly and easily preview and select your data, and you can immediately start searching. We're going to see that in the demo here, but really that's what happens. And one of the pain points, we listen to our customers very carefully, and one of the pain points that our customers had was, hey, things are moving so quickly in this space and new features are being added. We don't want to have to manage upgrades. We don't have to manage hardware. With all these cloud data platforms, we don't want to have to deal with that. And so at ThoughtSpot, in September of this past year, we launched ThoughtSpot Cloud. And it allows us to do monthly releases without the customers being impacted and having to deal with that. And it really has changed our company. So we went from a company that, we started with an appliance, by the way, to get the kind of search performance that we needed back in the early 2010s. We needed to build our own in-memory cache. And I'll show you a little bit about what that architecture looks like. But as we've moved away from that and moved to cloud, we found that cloud is really where the new customers are. So we're focused on that. We continue to have an on-premise offering, but we're really driving on cloud and helping customers not have to worry about managing an environment. So a couple of customer stories, which are always interesting in these kind of environments. Hulu has been a ThoughtSpot customer for a long time, and they become a Snowflake customer over the past few years. And what we really found as we met with them was that they had a need to get access to their data in Snowflake from ThoughtSpot. And that was really what they wanted to do. And they were analyzing subscription data and trying to understand churn. So you think about these subscription services, there's a ton of new competition, and they want to understand, hey, are customers sticking with us, or are they leaving? and what are we doing to increase revenue from these customers? So when you look at it, they had campaign data, programming data, and subscriber insights. And all this data lived in Snowflake. So as they were using ThoughtSpot, they had about 16 billion rows that they were working with. When in Snowflake, they had over 250 billion rows. And so as they looked at, how would they work with this data, being able to query the data in place in Snowflake was really important to them. And, this data is tracked. They track the programming data is tracked at the millisecond to see exactly when users are stopping watching, whether they're pausing, whether they're skipping commercials, or whether they're, abandoning an episode, to better understand their data. These huge data volumes. And so getting that data, bringing ThoughtSpot and Snowflake together was a huge win for Hulu. Now, another use case is embedding analytics. So we're putting a big focus this year on companies being able to embed ThoughtSpot either in their own internal portals or in an application for their end users. So Varus is an insurance in the insurance space, and they have users who are wanting to get access to their data and understand this. And so they had 30,000 reports that they'd created both internally and for their customers. And now what they've done is they've given users direct access to the data in their Snowflake environment, and it really changed the game for them. The users can come in, ask the questions that they want, and again, thousands of canned reports, and their process, they'd have to get a request from a customer for a new report. They'd have to have someone go create that report and then publish that report, and obviously make any changes as things happen. And that migration really happened. And again, this is another former Falcon customer that's migrated to Snowflake to simplify their data pipeline and really get value out of the combination of the two platforms. And it says the wait time was reduced from a week to minutes. And you can imagine how their customers feel about this, right? And from our end, it's great to get that search and AI-based experience into the hands of as many users as we can. Now, Metromile was an existing Snowflake customer that didn't have ThoughtSpot, and they wanted to get into ThoughtSpot very quickly. They had 2 billion rows in their Snowflake instance, and they were tracking all kinds of data about the drivers and the usage. They have a pay-per-mile billing system that generates just a ton of data. And they were able to leverage ThoughtSpot Cloud to deploy very quickly and to get to the value in their data. And so really that's the story of ThoughtSpot, and specifically ThoughtSpot Cloud, is quick access to the data in your cloud data warehouse. And this is how we do it. So this diagram represents ThoughtSpot as of about 2 years ago. We have all of these pieces to enable relational search. Our version of dashboards are called pinboards because they're much more interactive. Think Pinterest. So I see something interesting, I pin it, I add it to my board, and it's really about kind of maintaining my own board as much as sharing boards, whereas a dashboard would be very much published by an expert. Anyone can create a pin board. So we have embedded users, as I mentioned, Varus. You have automated insights coming into play. We have a mobile app, and mobile development continues. And then the idea of business monitoring, being able to find out what's happening and having an insights feed. These are important keys to our application. And to power all of this, we had an in-memory cache. Now, as our customers were deploying ThoughtSpot, the in-memory cache and that idea of loading data from external systems into the in-memory cache became a real blocker to adoption. As I've mentioned, both with Hulu and with Varus, this became kind of a challenge for them. And so into that same architecture, we inserted what we call Embrace. And that term Embrace simply refers to ThoughtSpot's ability to directly query key data warehouses. And so we talked about, this became GA just about a year ago. So in March of 2020, we released Embrace for GA, covering 4 key data sources: Snowflake, Amazon Redshift, again, BigQuery, and Synapse. We are going to announce in April the availability of our Presto or Trino connector that will give access to Starburst, who I'm excited to see on the list later. And we're going to continue to add other vendors like Databricks and other places where customers have their data. And really, that's what it is. And I think the best way to understand ThoughtSpot then is to walk you guys through a demo. So this is a cloud instance of ThoughtSpot, and the homepage is where everybody starts. And this is a newly reimagined. If you've seen ThoughtSpot before, there's a good chance you haven't seen ThoughtSpot 1, which is our new homepage. So I start with some cards that I can pin here to the top. So I can define my cards. So I have an executive sales report and some campaign data. We have pin boards and answers. So kind of getting into this, a pin board is a collection of search results. An answer is a single search result. And so I have ability to go in and see directly the pin boards and answers that have been created in my instance. And then I can kind of see here a feed that shows me the top items. And then I have trending pin boards and trending answers based on what's going on in my system. So we really want to make this easy for a business user who doesn't really know what they may be looking for to find information. And so if I come in here and I want to say, what are my top products by sales? I can hit enter and it's going to show me a listing of what it thinks it understood. Now this first one actually isn't what I want because it's top products by spend, and I can see this is in a procurement worksheet. So sometimes obviously when you're text searching, you're not going to get the ideal. Now you can apply tags to data and you can see, hey, I want to know what Todd's created or different people in my organization, but I see your total sales by product, and I can immediately jump in and preview that. And I say, hey, I see product names across the bottom. I see sales. That's what I want. And so I can click right in and it takes me into that. And you'll notice it actually took me to a pin board. So I'm actually in a pin board that has other data, but it's highlighted me on this total sales by product. And immediately as I go in, I can then drill down. So maybe I want to see this by state. So this travel duffel is the most popular item. And I can see that in Michigan is actually the state where it is the most popular. And, you know, Indiana, it's not super popular. New Hampshire's not super popular. And at any time as I'm doing this, I can, you know, continue to drill down, or I can actually view, you know, I can download information and I can work with it that way. And again, I can go back to the homepage, ask additional questions, or I may want to go to one of my cards here. And this card is showing me a dashboard or a pin board, like a dashboard, that's been created. And it's going to show me my total sales monthly by region. So I can kind of see some interesting trends. And again, that total sales by product is here. And actually, while we were looking at a single product, my total sales by state is mapped on a chart. And so what I want to do now, we've kind of consumed some data. Now I want to show what it's like to create a new answer for a data set. So over here in the corner, we have this little toggle that allows me to go from what we call search answers to searching data directly. So while search answers is a plain text, you know, I can write anything into there. Search data is actually based on a particular data set that I have here. And it's going to prompt me based on that data, not only the columns in that data, but the values in that data. So as I want to go in and I want to see sales data, I can then decide what I want to see. So you'll notice I've looked at the West region in the past because I happen to live in Utah, so I'm in the West. So I can either filter by a value, or I can filter by a, again, I can pick a column that's either an attribute or a measure. So now I have an attribute, I have a filter for the West, and now I want to see monthly. Now, what's great about this, by the way, is that I don't have to have a date dimension that has all of these different attributes of the date. If I give it a date, ThoughtSpot's automatically going to create a bucket that gives me the month, quarter, year, and that is customizable in the instance. So all of that's done without any connection to my underlying cloud data warehouse. And now I hit go, and now it's going to actually query my cloud data warehouse. And what ThoughtSpot's going to do, it's going to render the search result using what we call the best fit visualization. Now, if I want to see the underlying data, I can quickly and easily just view it in table format, right? So I can see the month and the total sales, right? And with this, I can automatically, again, drill down. So maybe I want to drill down and look at July. I want to see products for July, or maybe I don't want to see products. I want to see, product is what I'm going to do. There was type in there actually, which is product type. I could drill to that as well. So I can see this. This is a little busy. So I'm going to use a keyword called top, and I'm going to pick 12 just to show you kind of how flexible this is. And so now it's going to automatically give me the top 12, and it's going to sort them in descending order. So all kinds of nice things here in the interface to give me that interactivity. And when I'm ready, I can either save it by hitting save, and then I can pin it, and it's going to give, suggest what the name might be. And then I can pin that, add that to any of my pin boards. So you can see here I have just tons of pin boards, and I could add it to any pin board and then use it that way. The other things I want to point out, so if I want to change the chart type, I can very quickly and easily move between different chart types. And you'll notice that some of these are grayed out. And what they do when I hover over a grayed out chart type is it gives me the ability to know what type of data I need for that chart type to be usable. And so I have, really the ability to interact with the data that way. So I can pick the chart type that I want. We have some pretty advanced chart types that we can work with. And, in this case, just a bar chart was great. We also have ability to add, as an example, if I want to go into my settings, I want to add labels to my chart. I can do that very easily. I can do all those kind of configurations. And at the end of the day, we're building a query. So if I don't understand exactly what's going on here in the search window, I can come to the query details, and it's going to tell me that it's calculating sales by product, and it's filtering on the region being West, and the date is actually looking at just the last, it's looking at the date for 2020 for the month of August, because I drilled down on August. And by the way, if I want to remove that filter and see the overall, I can just remove any filter, and then it will update. And you'll notice that the query details automatically updated. Now, we do also have a query visualizer that allows me to see that. And I can also go into see the SQL that's going to be run against the underlying database. So I could copy and paste this into, in this case, Snowflake, and get a query that is going to show me, what query I'm actually running. So very easy to interact with. And for the end user, that's really all that they're going to do. But what I want to show, and I realize that we do have a lot of comments here, so I will get to questions in a few minutes, is how to create one of these connections. So when I come over to data, I'm going to go ahead and save that change to that answer. And you can see here, Embrace. And so Embrace is showing us, we have a lot of Embrace connections. They all happen to be Snowflake in this particular instance. But I want to actually show you guys, I'm going to go to a different instance real quick, just to show how easy it is. So this is try.thoughtspot.cloud. You can actually create an account on try.thoughtspot.cloud. If you go to thoughtspot.com and pick free trial, you will get an instance on this instance. Now you'll notice I don't have any of the admin because I'm just set up as a user. So just to show this, this would typically be done by an analyst, kind of a lead analyst would create a connection. So here I'm going to add a connection, and you notice my 4 sources are here, and I'm just going to give it a name. And just to show, a little bit of the differences, we can show you what it would be like looking at BigQuery. So we can connect here to BigQuery, and BigQuery is going to ask us for a project ID and a service account. So I'm going to really go quickly in here and grab my BigQuery connection. So I have basically a setup where I have, credentials for all these different data sources. And so for BigQuery, we use what we call a service account. We have recently activated pass-through authentication for both Snowflake and BigQuery. But I'm going to go ahead and create this for BigQuery. And you'll notice once I connect to BigQuery, I can see that I have 3 different data sets in my BigQuery. So we actually have a COVID data set, we have a retail data set, and then we have a data set that we brought in. Actually, we brought it in from Snowflake and created it in BigQuery. So interestingly enough, you can move data around. But in this case, I want to get the products. Now, as I go to grab a table, I can either grab certain columns in that table, or I can grab all of the columns in that table. In this case, I want all of the columns in my tables. And one thing about this connection is that if the database underlying has foreign keys defined, we're going to automatically create those joins and allow you to search that data. But I want to show you how easy it is to create joins, and that's one of the reasons that I picked BigQuery, because BigQuery doesn't have that join information. So it does take a minute here because we're getting all of the metadata about those three tables that I grabbed as we're interacting with BigQuery here. And it really is bringing those in. So we brought in three tables, one fact and 2 dimensions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to join from that fact to the 2 dimensions and show you how easy this is. So here we have the fact red up sales table, and we're going to grab product ID, and we're going to join that to the product table and to the product ID. So I don't need to know SQL. I don't need to know anything. I am going to, the one thing that I might want to know, but you don't have to set this, but this is a many to one because obviously the fact is pointing to the dimension. So it's a many to one. So I'm going to create that join, and then I'm going to go create another join to the source table. And again, if I have foreign keys defined in my database, I don't need to do this. It will be done automatically, but I can't edit it if I want to. So here I'm going to go from store ID, and again, many to one, create the join. So that was pretty easy, and I can immediately start searching then on this data. So if I go to my home, and again, I'm going to go into search data, I'm going to choose my sources, and I'm going to choose my newly created tables. So dim red app products, dim red app stores, and fact red app sales are my tables. I'm going to pick those, and I can immediately start searching them. So again, sales by state, and I see state popping up for me, and I can hit this enter. So that quickly, I created a connection to BigQuery, and now we're searching already. Now, ThoughtSpot has a concept that we call a worksheet, which is a very light semantic layer, which allows me to do some nice things like rename columns, create things like synonyms, and other things like that. So when I was searching earlier, I had a worksheet created that is here, retail apparel, and I could see actually here in my data objects under worksheets, I'm going to look up, and I can search here. I have my retail sales data worksheet that I'm working off of. You can see in here, I've defined new names. I've defined some synonyms. So product could also be item. Type could be category, location, area, revenue. I'm defining the types of the columns. Now, these all come in, and I can even define some geoconfigs, which is why when we were looking at it before, state was showing up as a map field. So I have all of this ability in my worksheets. So creating a worksheet is super simple as well. I create the worksheet, I add sources to it. I'm going to go in, I'm going to pick those same 3 tables. And now I go in and I say, okay, I want product name, product type. And these are the database names. Notice I'm not grabbing the IDs because my users don't need to see. And one thing is we're going, you can see that it's giving me a preview so that I can see what do the values look like in there. And it takes a second to refresh. So we're going to grab latitude and longitude and region. This is a relatively simple schema. Obviously, you may have more schemas. You may have, multiple facts. You may have lots of different things. But just to show how easy it is to get started, I'm going to create this. And again, if I want to say, instead of product name, I want product. Here I want product type as, separate, and everything else looks okay. Maybe I want to just change quantity purchase to quantity. And then when I save it, I've got to give it a name. So I'm going to call this retail GBQ. Now, in a single ThoughtSpot instance, you can connect to multiple databases, but you cannot query across multiple connection. So I can't, query data in Snowflake and query in BigQuery. Now that's something that if you hear what Starburst is going to talk about, once we have a Starburst connector, you might be able to join data, do data federation, and some interesting things. But now when I go to search, and again, I'm doing my search data, instead of choosing 3 tables, all my users have to do is choose retail BigQuery as the data set. And as they go in and run searches, now I'm going to say sales by product type, and I'm not sure why. Sometimes it takes a second to understand that data, for the data to refresh. If I have any questions from that area, I can go to my joins over here, and I see the joins are there. So that is working with ThoughtSpot. It really gives us the ability to get into our data, interact with our data, and very quickly get the answers that we need. So we've got about 15 minutes left, and there seems to be lots of questions in the chat. So I'm going to come in here and just maybe answer a couple of questions.
Yeah, let me help you there, Todd. I've been taking notes. So first question I jotted down is from Kim. She wants to know if there's any kind of limitation on the type of schema you're going to connect to. Can I connect to a third normal form kind of database schema, or do I have to put it in, connect to a denormalized kind of data warehouse?
It's a great question. So obviously we still only connect to the 4 data sources. We also have added support for Teradata and SAP HANA in our on-premise version, but for cloud, we still just support the 4 with Starburst coming soon. When it comes to inside of those databases, yeah, I mean, as you saw kind of as we create joins, if those joins are not a star schema, we can handle very third normal form data warehouses. Completely denormalized single tables work as well. Like however your data is organized, you can connect to that data and get that performance. So I think, at the end of the day, our best performance and simplicity is going to be, on top of a star schema, but third normal form is definitely something that we support.
Okay, cool. Very good. Thank you. And then Raj asks, can you give us some insight on the governance mechanisms, especially for large enterprise deployments? What kind of governance do we have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, inside of ThoughtSpot, we have users and groups. So a user can be assigned to multiple groups, and then content is shared. So that content that I created in the worksheet this worksheet here, when I created it, and let's see, I just want to see mine. When I created a worksheet, it's only visible to me. If I want to share that worksheet, then I come over here to the share item, and I can share this with a group or a particular user in here. So I have these groups, city bike group, retail, but all these different groups, and I have all these different users. So I can share any content with a group or user, and they can only see that. And users then, in addition to that ability to share, groups can have certain permissions. So if I go to add a group, you can see here, there's a bunch of different permissions. So is this group an administrator group? Can they be, fully administer? Can the users upload data? Can they download data? Can they share with all users? Can they manage data? So, as an end user, if I don't want them to be able to, I just want them to be able to come in, see one worksheet and work with that worksheet. That's what they can do. So I can set up as many groups as I want. The way that most of our customers do this is that they import the groups from their LDAP system, whether it be Active Directory or some other Okta or something else. They're importing the users and groups and group assignments in the, through a third party, and then they're just making the assignments of content to users, to groups. And so, it really is an enterprise level. We have customers like Verizon and Walmart that have thousands of active users that are all managed through an integration with their third-party, identification services. We also have support for SAML. So SAML is a key part of that, but fully, enterprise level security and integration with your existing directory structures.
Awesome, thank you. And then Michael asks, can you give us a feel for how ThoughtSpot differentiates itself from, excuse me, from the likes of Superset or Redash, these open source offerings?
Really, it's that idea of search. And I know that more and more solutions are adding search, right? Like search is kind of the flavor of the month right now. Mm-hmm. And what I would say is that to really make a search that can be used by end users. And when you look at the ThoughtSpot One experience, really consumer focused, and then also the ability to have the search data for content that's not created, it's really unique in that sense of being able to get a non-business user who doesn't know SQL to be able to build a chart or, find an answer that they need. I think what you'll see more and more coming in the next few months, the framework that we've built will allow us to automatically create a set of basic answers on top of your data instantly. So you're like, hey, I like search answers, but hey, I don't want to have to create all these answers so that my users can start searching them. We're going to have auto answer creation. We're doing things like looking at the query history in a Snowflake to find the questions that have already been asked and automatically build those answers. So there are lots of kind of ways that we focus on, getting the business user who doesn't know SQL, who doesn't want to learn a new tool. It's really an intuitive interface. While some of the setup may take some training and require some expertise, it's very much designed for that business user, and it has a lot of logic built into it to understand that.
Awesome, thank you. And then another question from Francesco. You mentioned the Multifact capability a couple times. It'd be great if you could. I don't know if you have an example, but could we see the SQL underneath one of those?
Yeah. So let me see if I have that data set up on one of these instances. Yeah, I may need to create one, but essentially what we do is we use common table expression. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the easiest way to put it. I don't actually have a data set that has that. Oh, now that I think about it, I do. I have the NFL data. So let me grab one of the NFL pin boards, and you'll see kind of what this looks like. So if I want to see the QB dashboard, and we want to go into, I'm just going to say copy and edit this one so that I can get to the SQL the fastest. This one's actually pretty simple. I gotta find a more complex passing yards, but essentially, yeah. I don't want to take too much time here.
We could do a follow-up.
If we did, here we go. Total pass. This one I know this one has it because we have the way that the data is organized. So if I look at the query SQL, this is what it would look like.
Very cool.
So basically, we're using common table expressions to do subqueries, and then we join the results of those subqueries.
Great. All right.
I did see another question from Francesco about setting the types of aggregations. So on a worksheet, if I were to go edit one of the worksheets that I've created, and I created the worksheet over here. So if I go to my worksheet and I just pick one of these worksheets. So I can define the aggregation type for that worksheet right here. So if you notice, start station is a measure, but if, let's say I have average temperature. So I've defined average temperature as an average aggregation. So the different aggregation types that we support are count distinct, sum, average, max, standard deviation, variance. So we do have a number of different aggregation types that you can use if your data doesn't aggregate with a sum.
Cool. Thank you. And then PW asks, can you give us a feel for, and you may be showing it right now, how to do calculations and create calculated measures?
So that one I haven't shown yet, but you can either do this at an answer level or on a worksheet. So on a worksheet, we have an idea called a formula. So in that formula, then we have an assistant that helps you build out whatever you want in terms of, it could be, math, it could be a date function of add days. So, there are quite a few different functions that you can, so if I wanted to get, as an example now, median is already in here. So if I wanted to say median distance, so this is a trip data set. So this is the city bike data. So these are like bike trip data set. So I could say median, and I just type median and it'll prompt me here. Median, and then it's going to let me know for median that it just needs a single value. So trip duration, it's not actually, we don't have distance. We don't know how they went, but we know how long they had. So if I wanted to get median duration and make that a measure that everyone can see, I would just say median trip duration. I could save that. I can do, math if I wanted to multiply two numbers, whatever I wanted to do. And then those formulas actually show up as columns that users can use when they're interacting with that data.
Oh, that's awesome. And then just another question around costs for the platform.
So we have two models for cost. The first is kind of the one that's been around longer, and that is the number of rows that you're connecting to. So every time I create a connection, we're going to go in and we're going to look at the tables that you're connecting to. And obviously, if you connect to one table multiple times, we're only going to count it once. But essentially, we're summing the number of rows. So if I buy, and I think we started 1 billion rows, if I buy 1 billion rows worth, that might cost, a certain amount per month. And really, at the end of the day, we're looking for customers to be able to get started in around the $50,000. With cloud, it makes it super easy. You don't have to deploy anything. They can get started. And like I said, very much encourage you guys to go to our free trial and register for your own free trials and try this out. And you can get that right on the ThoughtSpot website. So if you just go to ThoughtSpot, and it's funny because I actually don't go to our website that often, but ThoughtSpot.com, and you can get right here, free trial, and all we're going to ask is a few pieces of information, and then we're going to give you access for 30 days to a free instance, completely free instance. So very, very nice, easy way to get started. And the other model, by the way, just to return to the costing, is by minute. So essentially, for about $30,000, you can get a decent amount of usage in the interface. So every time somebody's in the interface, and by the way, if you walk away from your screen and we notice that there's no interactivity, or if you go to another tab, we're going to stop counting. So basically, active minutes in the session, and you can get a nice package of minutes for starting at about $30,000. And really, there's no per user licensing. We want as many users as we can get. Obviously, if you're using the time-based, consumption-based, the more users, the more time they're going to spend. But we really feel like that's the right model going forward.
Awesome. All right, I got 2 questions left. Raj asks if you have any kind of connectivity to data catalogs or data lineage tools.
That's coming. So we currently don't, but we're working, as Elation's going to be speaking sooner. We're working with Elation on a way to integrate with Elation and other data catalog tools to make that easy, both managing the content and, being able to see scoring from other places, getting metadata from those systems. Today, again, we connect to the 4 cloud data warehouses, but we're seeing, a lot of demand for Starburst, which is coming in April. And then, we're looking at other data sources that people may want to connect to.
All right, 1 minute, one question. This is from Kim. Can I connect to a MySQL version 5.7?
Unfortunately, currently not. We could help you work through the process of getting that data into Redshift, or as I said, once the Starburst connector is available, Starburst would actually be able to provide connectivity to other databases.
All right, thank you, sir.
But thanks so much for your time today. Thanks, Mike, for hosting me.
And ThoughtSpot, awesome product. Thank you, sir.
Love you guys. Thanks, Todd.